Aloha, and welcome to another Candid Conversation. Today, it's my pleasure to welcome Alex Kraft. Alex is a new contributor to our blogs and podcasts, and I'm pleased to say, a welcome colleague to our group of experts, thought leaders, disruptors that we're trying to put out on our platform. So good morning, Mr. Kraft. How are you?
I'm excellent, Ron. I appreciate you having me on and the opportunity to contribute.
Not a problem. I saw you smile when I mentioned the word disruptors.
You picked up on it right away. Disruptors are very scary.
and very necessary too.
Yes, I agree. It's a new way of doing things in such a very mature industry.
Yeah, that's a gentle way of saying status quo, isn't it?
Absolutely. I've learned to try to be not as threatening. So I use different words.
Well, you got the wrong guy on this side. I'm kind of known to speaking truth to power, and they don't always like it. But let's get up in the helicopter a little bit and have you describe your company, Heave, sure. What your goal was, what your purpose is, what you're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely. So Heave is a heavy equipment marketplace. All we do is we connect buyers and renters of equipment with dealer salespeople. That is the simplest form. And so there's a few different ways to describe it. We're an aggregator website, but what the value that we provide is, I was an equipment salesperson for a while, and then I managed sales teams, and it just was kind of crazy to me still how the industry operates, where if I want to buy or rent equipment, I have to know who to call. If I want competitive quotes, I have to call 5 different salespeople. And I knew this from the dealership world, where customers are typically chasing information, and it just was more difficult than it had to be. And so the way our platform works is very simple. A customer comes to heave.co and we post what customers want. I want a quote to rent a mini excavator. I would like to buy a compact track loader between 1,000 and 2,000 hours. And then any salesperson who is a user of our platform, they set their territory themselves. And then they get a text alert when a customer wants to buy or rent something in their area. And they can quote the customer right there from their phone.
It's intriguing, isn't it? As we look backwards from your role when you were a salesman, the only real asset that the salesman had that the customer didn't have was information about the product itself.
Yes.
With Google and all the information search tools, that difference or that need is gone.
It is. And also, I think it's just natural evolution where products become commoditized and people don't like to talk about it. And I understand why at a certain level, but if you listen to customers, how many times have we heard a customer say, well, I mean, the excavator digs a hole? Like, salespeople are not out there talking horsepower. They're not, hey, did you see the creep mode that we have on this machine? Like, so that's the way customers view a lot of machines. It's funny. I did, I went online the other day and I typed in all the brand, like Cat excavator fuel efficiency, Volvo excavator fuel efficiency, John Deere, and everyone said, hey, we're the most fuel efficient by X%. I mean, it's just the world we live in. And so products become commoditized. Part of it is from, tier 4 and the government making more strict regulations on things. Naturally, products get to the same kind of place. And so that is what exists. And so why, and where you're alluding to, customers do more research online. And so why not provide a tool where it's easier for them to connect? Because I think we've all done it. If you go to dealer websites, It's not easy. There's not most dealers don't even show you on their website who their salespeople are, how you would get a hold of them. This is where their territory is. And so that's the gap that we see as a huge opportunity to help.
And it's long overdue. And if we look outside, look over the wall is what I call it, and look at automotive.
Mm-hmm.
I can spec a car online.
Mm-hmm.
I can get a trade-in value online.
Mm-hmm.
I can get financial approval online. I can have a demonstration delivered to my door.
Mm-hmm.
I can place an order. They'll bring me the vehicle. They'll take my trade and take my money.
Yes.
It's easy.
It is. And so here's the most important part as to why we exist, is that what you just described is a great customer experience. And I don't believe, and I was guilty of this at Flagler. So I'm not talking from, oh, we used to do things better than our competitors at Flagler. I'm not saying, but I don't think dealers have asked those questions enough internally of, hey, how do we create a better customer experience? Like, you can't say that, hey, we have a great customer experience because the customer has to call the number they see on our website. Like, there's a reason why these companies in auto and different Lending Tree, Thumbtack, there's a reason why they're so successful, is because they've created this frictionless, easy customer experience.
And the jargon today is called contactless transactions,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically a fancy word, 25-cent word for the internet.
Yes, it's not having. You don't always have to get a human involved on menial tasks. Like, that's really what contactless means. And that's like we've kind of talked about, a customer know. What does a customer know? In equipment, a customer, I run 3.5-yard wheel loaders. That's what I run. Like, customers aren't really speccing out machines. They run a 3.5-yard loader with bucket and forks. They run a 100,000-pound excavator with a 4-yard bucket. The customers aren't sitting there through a menu like, all right, I want to add this option and my boomstick configuration. Now, there might be some that do, but that's the 5%, the 2%. So why not focus on, hey, how do we make it easier for the 98%? And that's what our platform does.
Yeah, and that leads your comment in that string that really got my attention is we aren't really trying to create a better customer experience.
Right.
And it, as an industry, and it's a subject for another podcast for you and I, the customer service aspect of things, the needs and wants of the customers tied to technology. Mm-hmm. One of my dilemmas as a person is, it appears that the industry is led by 55 to 75-year-olds, baby boomers, and I'm at the top end of that. You're not in there yet, but close. And what that group is risk averse. They're very careful. They don't want to make mistakes. They don't have recovery time. And Metz Kramer, that you and I were talking about, that we'll share this kind of platform on later, was talking about the fact that in America, 95% of the purchasing transactions are conducted by a millennial, a Gen X, or a Gen Z. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, Ron, get over it. You guys don't even understand how we think. Mm-hmm. It's very true, isn't it?
It is. And it's also like, not only are they risk averse, but I don't know, maybe this industry is a little different than others. There's just such a desire of, well, this is the way it's always been done. And and that's what I wrote about for your site. It's like, why not try different things? Like, it becomes so defeating when you're a younger person in the dealership world, where if you have an idea, it's shot down for these 5 reasons. And you're always in those meetings like 5 years later, and no one's done anything different. because any idea is like, well, there's the 4 reasons why it doesn't work. But you never have an idea, you never have an understanding of, well, what will and what won't work, because you don't try anything. It's crazy.
One of the things that I'm pounding hard at with all of the people that I interact with is have a group of people, depending on your size, 2, 3, 4, 6, who do nothing but business development. And if you look backwards to the 80s, when we brought the Deming total quality movement or continuous quality improvement, whatever terminology you want, and then General Electric comes with Six Sigma and black belts and all the rest, and then we've got to 5S and 7S, and it keeps on going with all of these buzzwords. But as I look at the dealership, and you can relate back to this at Flagler, there was nobody whose job was to go find a process that we can make better, to go find a need that the customer has we aren't satisfying, or to find a need that our employees have to make their life easier. Nobody's charged with that responsibility, and they should be.
Correct. 100%. We hired somebody as like a process improvement person my last couple of years, and that's what we sought out to do. Because, and I think, dealers are unique. It's a unique structure, and it's a unique business. And I think one thing that you can say that applies everywhere is that they're understaffed. And I think part of the challenge for dealers of improvement is that, like, I used to go into work with an agenda, I'm going to get this done today. And then immediately there's 8 problems. and everyone says it in dealer world, right? The phrase is, well, I'm a firefighter. I'm always putting out fires. And I think that is true. But that's also why I think technology can play such a critical part, is that it will allow people to, you're understaffed. So technology naturally allows you to do more with less, number one. And if you put it in place in different menial areas, you can have your employees focus on more greater ideas that impact customers. The other thing that I've learned too with starting a company that I think applies to dealers and is that what's the best way to put it? It's okay to try an idea on a small scale, right? And I think that naturally, if somebody has an idea, they're like, okay, like let's say I have 8 branches with a dealership. Well, this is a good idea. Let's apply it immediately to all 8. and I think, and that's something that I've learned, like I said, with starting a new company, is start small. Start with just 10 customers. If you have an idea for better service, take 10 customers who will work with you and just try that idea on 10 customers, or try that idea at 1 branch and see how it goes, and then you can tweak things. And it's more of that, like that learning mode, as opposed to, hey, if we do try this new idea, let's do it on a grand scale. And then if it fails, people are like, well, see, it didn't work. Well, not necessarily. It becomes really hard to manage at a very, very large area.
Yeah. It's implementation's management's job. And when we don't have the business development function, then we leave it to the managers to try and do things. And like you say, you walk into work and you lose control of your agenda because somebody's waiting at your door, or the phone rings, or whatever it is. And everybody, we all use that analogy of firefighter. The thing that many people forget is that 95% of the firefighter's job is preventing fires.
Yes.
So it's critical. And I used to do the same thing, where I'd come in early and they'd find out and the phone starts ringing. I'd stay late, they'd find out, the phone stays ringing. See, people would come to my door, ask a question. You don't check your brains at the door when you come to work, boys. What's your solution? What's your idea? We don't have that culture, do we?
No, we don't. And it's all very reactive, right? And that's what we're trying to change where I was at, is that, hey, you have the responsibility, you have the authority, make a decision. Now, if something goes wrong, we can always talk about after the fact, well, why did you make the decision? And maybe we analyze that part. But yes, the most, what you're saying too is true. The most productive times of your day are first thing in the morning and end of day when people aren't there.
Yeah.
But it's creating that culture of it's okay to make mistakes, but let's not try to repeat them. And I don't have to chime in on everything, and that I learned that lesson too, is you just have to create an environment where more people are contributing, feel like they can make decisions. Not every decision has to be correct. Otherwise, then it becomes paralysis. Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm a customer. I go to your site and I'm identify what I'm looking for, and I just load it myself, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And it goes into a pool that is searchable.
Mm-hmm.
The salesmen who participate in Heave then get a text message that somebody's looking for something.
Yep.
New, used, rental, correct?
We ask a few questions of the customer when they come to our site, and they're intuitive. So I'll give you a example of the flow. All right, I want to buy. So everything kind of starts with a model, because that's how customers view things. I run Cat 299s, so a customer comes to Heave. I am looking for a Cat 299 size machine. Pick it. Okay. Do you want to buy it or rent it? And so we have two different paths. I want to buy it. Okay, great. Would you like a cab or a canopy? Cab. Okay, great. Since you wanted to buy it, what attachments would you like? I want a bucket and forks. Great. Now, what hour range are you interested in? I want something new, less than 1,000 hours, between 1 and 2, 2 to 4, 4,000 plus. They pick whichever hour range they'd like. Where are you located? I need delivery in Orlando. Done. Then it gets posted. So if you're a user of our system, yes, you get an alert, text and email with the customer's name and then a summary. They want a 3,000 plus operating capacity machine. We don't say the customer chose a Cat 299 because, like I said, our value is giving customers choice. So we just say to the community, hey, they want a 3,000 plus operating capacity machine. Anyone like you right now today, you don't have an account on Heave. You could go to our site, you click on opportunities, and all of those customer postings are right there for you to see. And you can just click quote if you're interested. You view the criteria and you put your machine. I have a Bobcat T770. It's located in Tampa, Florida. My price is $65,000. Submit. And it goes right back to the customer on their side of the platform. They get an alert. They can view 3 quotes side by side. And then here's a kicker customer experience is the customer, they knew who the customer is. They see the name, but they don't have their contact information. We allow the customer to dictate who they want to release their information to. And this was a conscious decision on my part. I had gone to TrueCar prior and put in a request for a Chevy Tahoe or whatever it is. The only thing I didn't like about TrueCar was the second I pressed submit, I had probably 18 dealers that called me in the next 24 hours. And so that shaped my experience. So the customer has the quotes and then they can view it. And then they have a button on their site. It says contact sales rep. They can contact as many as they'd like. If they have 6 quotes, they can hit contact to every one of them. If they do that, the salesperson gets a text back saying, Ron Slee is interested in your Bobcat T770 quote. His email address is this and his phone number is this. And then you can communicate. But the customer controls the communication.
What you mentioned on TrueCar, and it's true with most of these services online, you get calls from all manner of people. That kind of relates back to the fact that you started in 2021. What are the changes to the customer experience that your experience in Heave and interacting with customers and suppliers has brought you to change. That's one of them, the filter that on the call.
Yes.
Are there any others that are significant, Alex?
I would say there aren't as many on the customer side. There have been some significant changes on the supplier, the dealer side. Well, so one thing I would say that I didn't have an appreciation for before I started the company is really the science behind user experience. So, and what I mean by that is, like, we subscribe to a technology company called Hotjar. And what's really cool about Hotjar is that I watch screen recordings of visitors to our website every day. And so the significant changes that we would make over time were I would watch customers come to Heave and then answer the questions. And I would see customers leave our site without completing a request. And so we got to see over time, we changed the order of the questions. We threw out some questions, and then more customers were completing the experience. So I would say that we changed, and I still watch those recordings. The changes on the salesperson side, we added territory about 120 days ago. I didn't realize how big of a deal that would be. And that might sound kind of foolish, having dealer experience, but I thought we were being coy when in the beginning, where we were posting everything. And then we had salesmen who weren't really active on our site, and I would talk to them. Why? Well, I got to filter through all these deals in Texas before I got to the one that I could quote. And I was like, but you're a used equipment manager. Like, don't you sell stuff in Texas? Well, but I primarily sell in these 2 states. Okay. So I heard that enough, and I saw people not really using the system as much. So I was like, you know what? Why fight the tide? Add territory. And so we added territory. So when you create an account, if you're a salesperson, you're immediately prompted. Enter your counties and or states, and then it's locked in. We also give salespeople the ability to further set settings. So you can say, I only want to see rentals. I only want to see purchases. I only want to see these products. Like, I only want to see compact, or I only want to see heavy. It's completely customizable to the user. So I would say that, the addition of customers being able to text, message through our platform, we added. So communication tools were big adds for us. There's a ton that you just learn. Time to quote is an important metric. We've seen that the quicker that a customer gets quotes from salespeople, the more likely is the deal to get done. If a customer puts in a request and maybe 3 days later gets a quote, it's not as impactful.
That goes back to that business development guide. You mentioned territories. We haven't really done a checkup from the neck up type of thing on how we should cover the marketplace. What does it leads to, that's a subject that I'd like to explore more with you on another podcast. The balanced scorecard structure, which in my world starts with the customer needs and wants. We got to know what that is. And surprisingly, from my perspective, there's a difference between what we perceive the customer needs and want and what, in fact, the customer needs and wants. And your comment about territories is a perfect illustration. If when I was selling, and I didn't sell for a long time, and it wasn't my primary job function, but I was always looking for an instantaneous close. So the first objection I got was when I would start, okay, well, if I can satisfy that, are you going to give me an order today? And so the guy on the other side recognized, wait a second, we're not going to be here a long time. And, I wasn't successful all the time. None of us are, but I sold encyclopedias door to door. That was one of my very first sales jobs.
Nice.
And that was intriguing.
I
You're
can
looking at
imagine.
mama and papa and the young children, and this is about their education. Well, that's like something from the 1700s today, but it's an illustration. I think Heave and what you're doing is a precursor to an awful lot of change in how equipment is sold and distributed. How and how do you think? How do you get traction? How do you get thousands of salespeople to participate?
Uh, Honestly, it's awareness, because, and this is I like this question, so I'll give you a full answer. So awareness is number one. I'll say it makes sense to people, right? No, that's a huge feather in our cap. Now, a big unlock for me, and you said you had sold and you wanted to close right away. That was a mistake that I made in the early days of Heave, and it clicked for me about 6 months ago. Is understanding who our ideal user was for a dealer. I had way too many conversations with 15, 20-year veterans of, hey, you should use Heave. It's going to help you sell more, blah, blah, blah. Well, I did 15 million last year. I don't need that. Oh, no. And I'm trying to convince them. And I'm like, you know what? That's not the smartest thing to do. He did sell 15 million last year and he doesn't. Yes. What do I believe that our platform has value for that person? Yes. But some people are just not willing. And so I then came to the realization of how many salespeople there are out there and how many are under the age of 30, 35 years old. And the benefit is that when they start at whatever dealership, whatever rental house they started at, if you're 26 years old and they say, hey, here's the job, you're going to get in your car and you're going to drive to that job site and you're going to try to talk to somebody. And then when you're done with that, you're going to drive and find the next job site, try to talk to someone. And I'm like, those are the people that I need to talk to. Because when they find out that Heave exists, they're like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because I've spent 12 months in this industry and I maybe see 2 people a day. This doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, and that opens up another whole door about onboarding and training and development and management and leadership, but coaching, everything.
Yeah.
I think we've described Heath pretty well for the audience. Is there anything that you'd want to add before we close this session off?
Yes, I do think that I like talking about customer experience, and I think this industry has suffered from a lack of transparency and pricing for a long time, and there's a few different avenues to go down with that. Like you can go to dealer websites and even like Machinery Trader, and you see pricing that is advertised. And to me, it's nonsensical because I've been in the industry. I know what our competitors sold machines for. And I see online listings with crazy numbers because this industry has always operated from a place of fear of talking about real transactional pricing, and that hurts customers. Because you could have uneducated buyers really that are out looking at stuff online. And so what if they don't sell for that, but that's the starting point for negotiation. And so a platform like ours really helps because the pricing that's quoted is a private price. If you quote through our system, you can't see your competition's pricing, but customers are getting a real price. And that's a major difference. And I also think in terms of customer experience, buyer behavior has changed. Like I don't know many customers who enjoy the negotiating anymore. It's a waste of time. And it's this psychological battle where it's like, oh wait, if you just came down 8% because we sat, like, what if I didn't ask? What if I didn't press you? And so I think those are things that are at play in this industry as what we're helping with, what we can help solve, because it's not value add, it's not beneficial.
I think that's a wonderful way to put a bow on it. And thank you, Alex. I think what you're you've embarked upon with Heave is a very, very necessary step for the industry and is very helpful for both sides of the transaction. And I love your focus on customer experience. I hope everybody listening has enjoyed the information that Alex has shared with us and has a better understanding of what Heave does. I look forward to seeing you at another podcast in the near future. Mahalo.